I gave up the trip of a lifetime because I thought my grandma was dying. Then I found out my whole family was partying on a cruise. They didn't just leave me. They stole my future. They say loyalty is a virtue. I used to believe that, until the night I sat on the edge of my bed, suitcase half-zipped, my fingers still sticky from peeling travel tags, and listened to my mother lie through her teeth. "Lauren, sweetie, please. It's Grandma," Mom said, her voice cracking over the phone. "She's been rushed to the hospital. The doctors, they're not sure she'll make it through the night." My heart dropped so fast I couldn't even breathe. The air left my lungs like someone had punched me in the stomach. "I'm on my way," I said, standing up before I'd even processed the words. "Forget the trip. Just text me the hospital name." My hands were trembling as I hung up, adrenaline replacing the excitement I'd been feeling just moments earlier. For weeks, I had looked forward to this family cruise, our first vacation together in years. I'd saved for it out of every paycheck, even picked up weekend shifts at the accounting firm. Just last night, I'd laid out 3 new sundresses and packed sunscreen like it was some ritual of optimism, and now it all felt pointless. None of that mattered if Grandma Eleanor was in a hospital bed fighting for her life. She wasn't just my grandmother. She was the one who always made me feel seen when the rest of the family didn't. The only one who remembered how I liked my coffee. Who'd show up to my college graduation when Mom and Dad were too busy with Chloe's ballet recital. The thought of losing her made my stomach twist. I called the cruise line and canceled my ticket, heart pounding the whole time. They were reluctant, of course. Last-minute cancellations don't exactly come with a warm hug and a refund. I didn't care. If Grandma was sick, I had no business sipping piña coladas in the Caribbean. I grabbed my keys, still in my jeans from earlier, and headed out into the cold Indiana night. The roads were wet with leftover rain, and my windshield wipers squeaked with every pass. I was halfway to the hospital when my phone buzzed in the passenger seat. A notification lit up the screen. Instagram. Chloe Mitchell posted a story. I shouldn't have checked. I knew that. But my curiosity got the better of me like it always does. I tapped the notification and my entire body froze. There they were. My whole family. My mom, my dad, Chloe, smiling on the upper deck of the cruise ship, glasses of champagne raised mid-toast. The sun painted everything golden behind them. Best vacation ever. #cruise life, #family first. The caption read. I blinked. My heart stuttered in my chest. No. This had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a throwback photo? Maybe they took it earlier? I clicked through the rest of Chloe's story. The images kept coming. Dinner by candlelight, a tropical beach, even a boomerang of Chloe doing a slow-motion hair flip in a bikini I'd helped her pick out just last week. All tagged. Live from the Caribbean. My fingers were numb. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. They were on the cruise. Right now. Every single one of them. They'd lied to me. They'd used Grandma as the excuse to keep me home. The person they knew I'd drop anything for. I pulled the car over to the side of the road, hands shaking as I fumbled with the seatbelt. I stared at the glowing screen, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. What kind of people, what kind of family would do something like this? Had they been planning it all along? Was my ticket ever really booked? Why? Tears welled up in my eyes, hot and fast. I'd skipped promotions, turned down trips with friends, helped my mom with her migraines, driven Chloe to auditions at 6 a.m. and never, not once, asked for anything in return. And this was how they thanked me? I sat in silence for several minutes, unable to breathe, unable to think. Then I turned off the car, wiped my face with my sleeve, and did the only thing that still made sense. I drove to Grandma Eleanor's house. If she wasn't in the hospital, I needed answers. And maybe, just maybe, this betrayal was only the beginning. Grandma's porch light was on when I pulled into the driveway, casting a warm amber glow across the small garden she kept so meticulously. I sat in the car for a few seconds trying to steady my breath, my thoughts, my heart. Still didn't feel real. My fingers curled tightly around the steering wheel, as if I could squeeze the betrayal out of me. I wasn't sure what I expected to find when I rang the doorbell. An empty house? A neighbor telling me she'd gone on vacation too? But then the door opened, and there she was. Eleanor Mitchell, my grandmother, stood in her fuzzy slippers, wearing her favorite navy cardigan, eyes widening in surprise when she saw me standing on the stoop with tears still drying on my cheeks. "Lauren," she said, stepping forward. "Honey, what's wrong?" I didn't answer. I just fell into her arms. The scent of lavender and cinnamon instantly wrapped around me like a childhood memory. My composure cracked. I buried my face into her shoulder and let the tears fall. She didn't ask any more questions. She just held me, rubbing slow, soothing circles on my back like she used to when I scraped my knees or came home from a tough day at school. We sat in her living room, the old grandfather clock ticking steadily in the background. The silence between us was gentle, patient, Grandma's way of giving me space. "They lied to me," I finally said. My voice was raw, scratchy. "They told me you were in the hospital." Her face shifted instantly, from concern to confusion to something colder, disapproval. "What?" she whispered. I nodded. "Mom called me tonight. Said you were seriously ill. Said I needed to cancel the cruise. So I did." Eleanor's lips tightened. "Lauren, I've been home all week. I haven't even had so much as a cold." She stood slowly and walked toward the kitchen. I heard the teapot click on. It was such a normal, comforting sound that it only made the weight in my chest feel heavier. "They used you," I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. "They knew I'd do anything for you, and they used that against me." Grandma turned to face me. Her hands were trembling slightly as she held 2 mugs of tea, but her eyes were steady and sharp. "Your mother called me last week," she said slowly. "She asked me to go along with a story in case you stopped by. Told me to pretend I'd been admitted to the hospital." I stared at her, my mouth falling open. "You refused?" I asked. "Of course I refused," she said, her voice trembling now, not from fear but from anger. "I told her I wanted no part in lying to you. I never imagined they'd go through with it anyway." The teacup in my hand clinked against the saucer. So it wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't some twisted joke. It was deliberate, calculated, planned, and it shattered something deep inside me that I wasn't sure could be put back together. I spent the night at Grandma's, curled up on the pull-out couch in her guest room. The tea had long gone cold on the nightstand, but I hadn't touched it anyway. Sleep came in broken waves, tossing, turning, questions playing on repeat in my mind. Why would they do this? What did I do to deserve being left behind? But somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, as the wind howled against the windows and the old house creaked in protest, my phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. I blinked in the dark, fumbling for it with half-asleep fingers. I assumed it was some junk notification or maybe Chloe trying to save face, but the screen made my blood chill. Unknown number. Don't trust her completely. Look under her bed. There's a wooden box. You deserve to know. I sat up straight, heart pounding in my chest. What the hell? I read the message 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Who sent it? And what did they mean, don't trust her? Were they talking about Grandma? My first instinct was to delete it, shove it away like the ghost of a dream. But something about the wording felt too specific. Too real. The kind of thing someone wouldn't say unless they knew something. I sat in silence, staring at the doorway, the faint light of the hallway barely illuminating the edges of the room. Doubt crept in like a slow leak. Grandma had always been kind, generous, warm. But she had kept that phone call from me. She hadn't told me that Mom tried to involve her in the lie until after I confronted her. And if she knew something was wrong, why hadn't she reached out first? I hated the thoughts forming in my head, but they were already there. Twisting. Rooting. I slipped out of bed quietly and tiptoed down the hall. Her bedroom door creaked as I nudged it open, but she didn't stir. She was fast asleep, her breathing soft and steady beneath the quilt she'd had since before I was born. I stood at the foot of her bed for a moment, guilt making my hands hesitate. But the message, it echoed in my mind like a dare. I knelt down, reaching under the bed with cautious fingers. My hand brushed something smooth and solid. A box. Wooden, old, and faintly scented like cedar. I pulled it out carefully and opened the lid. Inside, I found a bundle of old letters, yellowed with age, bound together by a faded blue ribbon. And beneath them, an envelope. My name written on it in elegant cursive. My throat tightened. I didn't open it. Not yet. Because suddenly I knew. This wasn't just about the cruise. There were deeper secrets here. Ones that had waited years in the shadows. And now they were mine to uncover. The envelope was heavier than it looked, as if the truth inside it carried real weight. I sat back down on the edge of the guest's bed, my fingers tracing the curve of my name across the front. Lauren, written in that same familiar script I'd seen on birthday cards and holiday notes from Grandma Eleanor. Except this time it didn't feel comforting. Felt final. I slipped my thumb beneath the flap and opened it, careful not to tear the paper. Inside was a folded letter and a series of printed bank documents clipped together. The letter came first. "My dearest Lauren," it began. "If you're reading this, then something has changed. Maybe I've passed. Or maybe you've started asking the questions I always feared you would. Either way, you deserve to know the truth, the whole truth." I sat still, eyes scanning each line like they might catch fire. "Years ago, before your grandfather passed, he set up a trust fund for you and Chloe. It was meant to support you both equally. Your college, your future, your dreams. The trust was divided into 2 equal parts. You, Lauren, were the first to be named. The fund was locked until your 30th birthday." I paused, doing the math. I was 28 now. 2 more years. "But shortly after your grandfather died, your mother came to me. She said you were struggling, that you needed early access to your funds to cover tuition and living expenses." I believed her. My breath caught in my throat. I had struggled. I'd worked 3 part-time jobs through college. I'd eaten instant noodles for weeks when rent went up. No one had offered me help. Certainly not Mom. She showed me papers your Uncle David later confirmed were forged. She withdrew the money, Lauren. Not just part of it. Almost everything. I dropped the letter. The shock hit me like a punch to the chest. I picked up the documents next: bank statements, withdrawal logs, transfer slips. All in my mother's name. Some even in Chloe's. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gone. My education, my savings, my future. Taken from me without a word, while I was scraping by on pennies. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted slightly, and I gripped the mattress to steady myself. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was theft. From my own mother. From the father I'd grown up thinking was just distant, not deceitful. A text pinged on my phone, sharp and sudden. It was from Uncle David. "We need to talk." I should have said something sooner. "I'm sorry. Uddy." I stared at the screen, chest tightening. Uncle David had always been quiet, neutral in family matters. A little too neutral, maybe. But now he was reaching out on this night after that letter? That couldn't be a coincidence. And deep down I knew. This was just the beginning. I stared at Uncle David's text for a long time, the words pulsing on the screen like a second heartbeat. "We need to talk." That was it, no explanation, no detail, but it was enough. It confirmed what I already knew in my gut. He'd been part of this. Maybe not the planning, maybe not the theft itself, but he'd known. And he'd stayed silent. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I opened Instagram. My hands were shaking, not with fear but with clarity. For the first time in days, maybe even years, everything felt razor sharp. I pulled up Chloe's story again. That perfect, sunny photo of my family clinking champagne glasses, all smiles and expensive sunglasses, basking in the glow of betrayal. I saved the photo to my phone. Then I opened Facebook. I'd never been one for public drama. I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the daughter who kept the family secrets buried and smiled through the awkward dinners. But not this time. My fingers moved fast across the screen, the words pouring out without hesitation. Funny how being lied to about my grandmother being hospitalized just so I'd cancel my spot on a family cruise somehow makes me the problem. Even funnier how the cruise was paid for with money from a trust fund that was meant for me. Money my parents stole years ago. "You want to talk about family? Let's talk." I attached the cruise photo beneath it and hit post. The effect was immediate. Notifications exploded across my screen. Comments. Messages. DMs from cousins I hadn't heard from in months. Most were supportive. Some were confused. A few were angry. But the one message I was waiting for came less than 15 minutes later. From Chloe. "Chloe Mitchell. What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't reply. Then my phone rang. "Mom." I knew I shouldn't pick up. I knew this wasn't going to be a heartfelt apology or a moment of reconciliation. But some small stubborn part of me needed to hear her voice. "Lauren," she snapped the moment I answered. "What have you done? What I should have done a long time ago, I said, my voice flat. I told the truth. You're humiliating us, she hissed. Your father is furious. Do you have any idea how this makes us look? You mean after you lied about Grandma being sick? After you emptied my trust fund to send Chloe to ballet school? That's not how it happened, she spat. You're twisting everything. Am I? I said quietly. Because I have the bank records. I have the letters. And now so does everyone else. There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. Harder. If you don't take that post down, Lauren, you'll regret it. You have no idea what you're risking. My fingers gripped the phone tighter. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, she said coldly. You're not the only one with secrets. The call ended. And just like that, everything changed again. The silence after Mom's threat hung in the room like smoke, thick and suffocating. You're not the only one with secrets. The words echoed in my head long after the call ended, sinking beneath my skin like a splinter I couldn't reach. What secrets? What could possibly be worse than stealing $500,000 from your own daughter? I sat motionless for a while, staring at the darkened phone screen. Then I remembered the box. The one under Grandma's bed. The one I hadn't finished exploring. I went back upstairs, heart pounding louder with each step. The old wooden box still sat where I'd left it, just inside the guest room, beside the stack of bank documents and the letter from Grandma. This time I dug deeper. Beneath the letters and yellowed papers was a small velvet pouch. Inside I found a folded piece of paper so worn it felt like it might fall apart in my hands. I opened it slowly. At the top, in faded ink, were 3 words that made my stomach turn. Paternity test results. No. My hands went cold. I scanned the document, eyes darting line by line. My name. My date of birth. The tested parties. And then the result. Richard Mitchell excluded as biological father. I blinked, heart thudding in my throat. No. That had to be a mistake. A prank. A forgery. Something someone had doctored to stir the pot. But the paper looked official. Stamped. Signed. Dated. It was real. I sat back against the wall, the weight of it crashing down on me like a wave. All those years of cold stares, awkward silences, the subtle but unmistakable distance between me and the man I thought was my father. They weren't just mood swings or generational gaps. He knew. He always knew. The puzzle pieces rearranged themselves in my head faster than I could keep up. Mom's obsession with keeping things quiet. Dad's resentment. Chloe being the golden child. Everything I thought I understood about my family was suddenly upside down. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and texted Grandma. I found something in the box. We need to talk. Please. She called within minutes. I was hoping you wouldn't find that yet, she said softly. So it's true, I whispered. Richard's not my father. There was a pause. A deep, heavy one. No, sweetheart, she said. He's not. And I wanted to tell you for years, but it was your mother's choice. She made me promise. My throat tightened. Who is he? I asked. Another pause. His name was Thomas. You look just like him. I barely slept after the call with Grandma. The revelation about my father had split something inside me. A quiet foundational crack that now echoed with every heartbeat. But there was no time to fall apart. Not yet. By morning, my post had gone viral among our extended family. Cousins I hadn't seen since I was 10 were reaching out, shocked, confused, some apologetic. Most were outraged. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed the favoritism. I was just the first to say it out loud. Then came the message I didn't expect. From Chloe. Can we talk? Not here. Just us. Please. I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, a quieter, more wounded part, still needed to hear what she had to say. I agreed to meet at a cafe near downtown. Neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window in a hoodie and sunglasses like someone trying not to be recognized. It would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much to see her. I sat down across from her without a word. I didn't know, she said, voice barely above a whisper. About the trust fund. About the money. Mom always said it came from savings from Dad's bonuses. I didn't know it was your future they were handing me. I didn't say anything. I watched her closely, She looked nervous. Hollow-eyed. Real. I was stupid, she continued. I thought I was just lucky. The favorite. I didn't question it. But last night after your post I confronted them. Her voice shook slightly. They didn't deny it, Lauren. They just told me to stay quiet. That you were trying to destroy the family, and if I didn't pick a side, I'd lose everything too. I leaned back, absorbing her words. They felt honest. Unfiltered. Like the truth had finally hit her, like it hit me, sharp, merciless, and irreversible. I found some emails, she added, pulling her phone from her bag. Transfers. Offshore accounts. Mom's been wiring money out of the country for months. They're planning something. And they're using my name to do it. That got my attention. What do you mean? I asked. I mean, I'm tied to accounts in the Caymans in Switzerland, accounts I didn't know existed. If they run, the law's going to come for me too. Now it made sense. She wasn't just remorseful. She was scared. They played me too, she said. And I want to help. I'll testify. I'll give you everything I have. For the first time in days, I saw not my sister the favorite, not the girl who wore my clothes and took my place on the cruise, but Chloe the person. And I believed her. By the time Chloe and I left the cafe, the gray morning sky had started to crack open with light. Something about walking beside her now, less like rivals, more like survivors, felt surreal. I never imagined we'd stand on the same side of anything, let alone this. She handed me a flash drive before we parted. Everything's on here, she said. Emails, wire transfers, account numbers, timestamps. You'll need it. I nodded, pocketing the drive. We'll both need it. An hour later, I was standing in front of the sleek glass doors of Mitchell Holdings, the family company my so-called father had built his empire on. The same company Grandma Eleanor had told me he'd used to launder trust fund money into personal assets. Today, I wasn't here as the forgotten daughter. I was here as a shareholder. The main shareholder. Grandma had transferred her controlling interest to me that morning. Her signature freshly dried on legal paperwork that gave me the right to walk through these doors and demand answers. And justice. As I pushed through the lobby, security turned their heads. I didn't stop to greet anyone. I didn't smile. I took the elevator straight to the executive floor. The doors slid open to chaos. My parents were there, Deborah and Richard, both frantically packing boxes outside my father's office. Chloe had warned me they might try to destroy documents before the authorities arrived. And now I was staring straight at them. My father froze when he saw me. Lauren, he said, trying to recover his usual CEO tone, this isn't the time. Oh, I think it's exactly the time, I replied, stepping closer. Especially since you're removing boxes from my company. Deborah's face blanched. Your company? I held up my phone, screen glowing with the scanned legal transfer. Grandma signed everything over this morning, I said calmly. Effective immediately. I'm the majority stakeholder now. Richard's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're doing. No, I said. But I know exactly what you've been doing. And so do the police. As if on cue, red and blue lights flashed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A moment later, the doors opened behind me, and in walked two uniformed officers and a pair of agents from the Financial Crimes Division. I turned back to my parents. This isn't about money anymore, I said, voice steady. It's about everything you thought you could bury. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every broken piece of trust. Deborah reached for my hand. Lauren, wait, please. But I stepped back. You didn't just steal from me, I said. You erased me. And now I'm erasing the lie you built. Behind me, the agents approached with quiet authority. It was time. They didn't resist. Not when the officers asked for their IDs. Not when the FBI agents read off the charges: embezzlement, trust fund fraud, money laundering, wire fraud. Richard clenched his jaw, silent and rigid, trying to salvage his image with every breath. Deborah broke first. Her voice cracked, something between a sob and denial. This is our family, she whispered, eyes darting to mine. How could you do this to us? I didn't flinch. You did this to yourself. As they were escorted away, I caught Chloe standing in the hallway. She wasn't crying. She wasn't triumphant either. Just still. Like someone watching the final act of a show she never auditioned for, but got cast in anyway. I stepped toward her. They'll fight it, she said, eyes not leaving the elevator. They always fight. I know, I said. But this time they don't get to rewrite the story. She looked at me, something like guilt softening her face. Thank you. For not turning your back on me when you had every right to. I didn't answer right away. There wasn't a clean ending to that part of our story. Not yet. But maybe, eventually. 3 months later, the house was quiet. Grandma and I sat together on the back porch, coffee in hand, watching the leaves fall like the last pages of a book finally coming to a close. The investigation had uncovered more than I expected. My parents had not only drained my trust but had been quietly siphoning money from the company for years. They were facing federal charges, with trial dates set for early next year. Most of our extended family had turned their backs on them. A few still believed their side. That was fine. I wasn't here to win a popularity contest. Chloe had taken a plea deal in exchange for full cooperation. She'd moved to Minneapolis, started over. Her last message to me was a long apology I hadn't yet answered. Maybe someday. Meanwhile, Mitchell Holdings was rebuilding. I had stepped into leadership slowly, cautiously, surrounding myself with people who valued transparency and trust. We started a scholarship fund for employees' children. We reviewed every financial structure in the business. Integrity, I learned, wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. I looked over at Grandma. Do you think he'd be proud? I asked. She smiled gently, squeezing my hand. Your grandfather always said that money reveals who people really are. And what you did, Lauren, that wasn't just survival. That was strength. I nodded slowly, eyes tracing the edge of the garden. I had lost a family, but I had found myself. Winter came quietly that year. There was no dramatic snowfall, no howling wind to mark the end of everything that had been. Just a steady hush, like the world had finally exhaled. I moved into a small townhouse not far from Grandma's. It wasn't fancy, nothing like the house I grew up in, but it was mine. The walls were bare at first, the furniture secondhand. Still, it felt more like home than any place ever had. 'Cause now I had peace, freedom, truth. The company, once built on shadows, was turning a new leaf. We launched a mentorship program for young women in finance. We overhauled internal policies. I made a point to greet every employee by name when I visited the office. I wanted them to know I saw them even when no one else had. Just like I once wanted to be seen. Chloe and I weren't close, not yet. Maybe not ever the way sisters are in childhood stories. But we talked. Occasionally. She sent me photos of the art classes she was taking. Her voice was lighter in those voicemails. Less performative. More real. I was learning to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because I did. Forgiveness wasn't a gift for them. It was a release for me. One afternoon in early January, I returned home to find a small package at my door. No name. No address. Just a soft ribbon around a plain brown box. Inside was the locket. The family heirloom that was supposed to be shared between Chloe and me. The one my mother had given to Chloe in secret. Now it was in my hands. No note.
No explanación.
Just the quiet offering of something that had once been stolen. I held it in my palm for a long time, the weight of it heavier than gold. Then slowly, I walked to the bookshelf and placed it beside a framed photo of Grandma and me in the garden. Coffee mugs in hand, both of us smiling like we'd already won. 'Cause maybe we had. That night I curled up on the couch, a journal in my lap, pen in hand. For years I'd written in secret poems, thoughts, pieces of myself too messy to say out loud. But now I started something different. Page 1. This is not a story of revenge. It's a story of reclamation. Because in the end it wasn't about the money. It was about being erased, and choosing day by day to write myself back in. And that cruise they took without me? It didn't mark the best week of their lives. It marked the beginning of mine.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for updates on new videos. See you next time.